He wasn't a criminal mastermind. He wasn't connected to organized crime. He'd never even been arrested. Aaron Cole was a valet. He parked cars for a living. For 9 years and 7 months, he stood outside the Solaris Grand Casino in Las Vegas, wearing a burgundy jacket with gold trim, opening doors for wealthy tourists and high rollers who never looked him in the eye. He carried their keys. He smiled for tips. He said, "Thank you, sir," and "Have a wonderful evening, ma'am," 10,000 times until the words lost all meaning. But beneath that polite uniform and plastic name tag, Aaron Cole had been studying something far more valuable than car engines. He'd been studying the casino security. He knew which guards were lazy, which cameras had blind spots, when the armored trucks arrived, where the money moved before it reached the vault. And on a Tuesday morning in March 2019, Aaron Cole used that knowledge to lead a small crew through the biggest backdoor robbery Las Vegas had seen in 20 years, walking away with $76 million in cash before sunrise. No guns, no violence, just keys, access cards, and perfect timing. This is the story of the invisible man who knew too much. Before we dive into this incredible heist, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Click hype to boost this episode and help more people discover these stories. And drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from, your city, your country. I love seeing how far these reach. Las Vegas, Nevada, March 2019. The Solaris Grand Casino stood at the north end of the Strip, a 42-story tower of glass and steel that glowed purple at night. It wasn't the biggest casino in Vegas, wasn't the most famous, but it catered to a specific clientele, serious gamblers with serious money. The Solaris had a private poker room where buy-ins started at $50,000, a high-limit slot area where machines accepted $500 tokens, a baccarat salon that hosted Chinese businessmen who'd fly in on private jets to bet millions on a single hand. The valet area reflected this exclusivity. No regular cars here. Ferraris, McLarens, Bentleys, Lamborghinis, Rolls-Royces that cost more than most people's houses, and standing at the front entrance every night from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., wearing that burgundy jacket that marked him as staff, was Aaron Cole. 38 years old, African-American, 5'10", lean build, perpetual, slight smile that never quite reached his eyes. The kind of face you'd forget 30 seconds after looking at it. He'd worked valet at the Solaris for 9 years. 9 years of opening doors. 9 years of driving cars that cost $300,000 to parking spots 50 feet away. 9 years of standing in 115-degree summer heat and 40-degree winter nights. 9 years of watching people tip him $5 for 30 seconds of work, then walk into the casino and lose $50,000 before midnight. Aaron was the best valet we had, said his former supervisor, Marcus Chen. Never late, never called in sick, never complained. Guests loved him because he remembered their names, their cars, their preferences. He made people feel special. The truth was more complicated. Aaron Cole had grown up in North Las Vegas, the part of the city tourists never saw. Not the glittering Strip with its fountains and fake Eiffel Towers. The real Vegas, where people lived in apartments with broken AC units, where payday loan shops outnumbered grocery stores, where the American dream felt like a cruel joke told by people who'd never struggled. His father, Raymond Cole, owned a small auto repair shop on Lake Mead Boulevard, Cole's Auto Service. One of those places with 3 lifts, oil-stained concrete floors, a rusted Coca-Cola machine that hadn't worked since 1998, and a calendar from 2003 still hanging on the wall because nobody had bothered to take it down. The shop barely made money. Raymond was talented but too honest. He'd tell customers the truth. You don't need a new transmission, just a fluid change, when other shops would have charged them $3,000 for unnecessary work. That honesty kept the shop poor, but Raymond had pride. He'd served in the Marines, believed in hard work and integrity. He raised Aaron alone after Aaron's mother left when Aaron was 4. She'd said she couldn't handle the poverty, couldn't handle Vegas, couldn't handle being a mother. She'd taken a bus to California and never came back. Aaron had spent his entire childhood in that shop. After school, he'd walk the 2 miles from Walter Bracken Elementary, do his homework in the tiny office that smelled like motor oil and coffee, then help his father with whatever needed doing. By age 7, he was handing his father tools. 10mm socket, Dad, learning their names by touch. By age 10, he could diagnose basic engine problems by listening to how a car idled. By age 14, he was doing oil changes and brake jobs on his own, while his father handled the complex work. His father never pushed him, never demanded Aaron take over the business. But there was an unspoken understanding. This shop was their legacy, their survival, everything Raymond had built. Aaron was good at school, really good. Math came naturally. He saw patterns in numbers the way other people saw colors. His teachers told him he could get a scholarship, could go to college, could be an engineer or an accountant. His father was proud, but worried. College costs money, son, and we don't have that kind of money. I'll get scholarships, Aaron had promised. And he did. Full academic scholarship to UNLV. Started in 2006 at age 18, majoring in mechanical engineering. His father threw him a small party at the shop, bought a cake from Albertsons, invited the few regular customers who'd become friends. My son's going to be an engineer, Raymond told everyone, voice thick with pride. Aaron commuted from home to save money, worked part-time at a quick lube doing oil changes, studied late into the night in the shop's office, surrounded by the smell of tires and the sound of his father working on the last car of the day. It was hard, exhausting, but Aaron was making it work. Until March 2008, his father had been working under a Chevy Suburban, replacing a muffler, when he started feeling chest pains. He'd ignored them. Raymond ignored everything, believed pain was weakness leaving the body. The stroke hit him at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. The customer found him unconscious under the Suburban, called 911. Aaron got the call during his thermodynamics lecture. He'd run 12 blocks to his car, driven to University Medical Center doing 80 through traffic, arrived to find doctors telling him his father had suffered a massive ischemic stroke. He's alive, the doctor said, but the damage is extensive. He'll need long-term care. Raymond survived, but the man who'd raised Aaron was gone. The stroke had stolen his mobility, his speech, his independence. He couldn't work, could barely feed himself, needed round-the-clock supervision. The shop closed within a month. Aaron couldn't run it and go to school. He was 20 years old with no business experience and a father who needed $6,000 a month in nursing home care. Medicare covered some, not enough. Aaron dropped out of UNLV 3 months into his sophomore year, sold the shop's equipment for $15,000, sold the building lease for another $10,000, sold his father's truck for $3,000. It covered 4 months of nursing home bills. After that, Aaron needed a steady job. He'd applied everywhere: casinos, hotels, restaurants. The only place that called back was the Solaris Grand, looking for valet attendants. Experience with cars? The hiring manager had asked. I grew up in an auto shop. You're hired. Start Monday. That was 2010. Aaron was 22 years old. He'd been parking cars ever since. For the first few years, he'd visited his father every day after work, sit by his bed in that nursing home that smelled like antiseptic and decay, talk to him even though his father couldn't respond, tell him about work, about Vegas, about nothing. His father would look at him with eyes that showed recognition but couldn't speak, couldn't say he was proud or sorry or anything. Raymond Cole died in January 2019, 11 years after his stroke. Aaron had been sitting next to him, holding his hand when it happened. His father took one last shallow breath, squeezed Aaron's hand weakly, and was gone. The funeral was small, 5 people, a generic ceremony at a discount funeral home. Aaron paid for it with a credit card he couldn't afford to pay off. Standing at his father's grave, looking at the cheap headstone, Aaron did the math one more time. 11 years of nursing home care at $6,000 a month. $792,000. Money Aaron had spent working a job that paid $13.50 an hour. He'd worked 1,900 hours over those 11 years. Nights, weekends, holidays, just to keep his father in that nursing home. And for what? His father had died anyway. Died without ever speaking again, without ever fixing another car, without ever being the man he was before. The system had taken everything from them. Aaron's education, his father's dignity, their future. Standing at that grave, Aaron had made a decision. The system owed him, and he was going to collect. Aaron did the math constantly. He was good at math. A typical night, he'd park maybe 60 cars. Average tip, $7. That's $420 in tips plus $108 base pay for an 8-hour shift. $128 total. The guy in the Bentley Continental he just parked, that car cost $240,000. The man had tipped Aaron $10 and walked inside to play baccarat at $25,000 a hand. Aaron had calculated once that if he saved every penny he earned, didn't eat, didn't pay rent, didn't exist, it would take him 43 years to afford that Bentley. The math didn't feel fair, but Aaron never complained, never showed frustration, just smiled, said, "Thank you for your generosity," and parked the next car. Because valet attendants were invisible, furniture with legs, background characters in other people's stories, and Aaron had learned that invisibility was power. Every night, Aaron watched the casino's rhythms. He noticed that the Solaris had 2 valet areas, the main entrance for regular guests and an underground executive lot for VIP players and high rollers. The executive lot was accessed through a ramp behind the building, controlled by a key card system. Only 3 people had cards: Aaron, his supervisor Marcus, and the head of security. Aaron had access because someone needed to park VIP vehicles. The lot had space for 20 cars, all under video surveillance, climate-controlled, with leather detailing and complimentary washes included. But Aaron noticed something else. The executive lot connected to a service tunnel, one of the old utility corridors from when the casino was built in 1995. The tunnel led to a maintenance elevator that went directly to the 3rd floor, and on the 3rd floor was the cash transport bay. This was where money moved through the casino, where chips were converted to cash, where table games earnings were counted, where armored trucks picked up deposits twice a day. Most employees didn't know the tunnel existed. It wasn't on public maps. Security barely monitored it because it required keycard access at both ends. But Aaron knew. He discovered it 3 years ago when he'd been asked to retrieve a customer's laptop from a VIP vehicle after hours. He'd taken the elevator up and found himself in a restricted hallway. A security guard had redirected him, but Aaron had seen the signs. Cash Transport Bay, authorized personnel only. He'd filed that information away. Didn't think much of it at the time, until he met Trey Malone. Trey Malone was 42 years old, white, 6'2", built like someone who'd played college football and then spent 20 years slowly going to seed. Shaved head, thick neck, the kind of guy who wore gold chains and spoke too loudly. He'd worked as a bouncer at various Vegas clubs for 15 years. Got fired from his last job for allegedly running a side business, selling drugs to VIP guests. Never charged, but the rumor followed him. Now he was between jobs, running scams, talking constantly about one big score that would set him up for life. Aaron met him at a bar in Henderson in January 2019. Aaron didn't usually go to bars, but his father had died 2 weeks earlier. Pneumonia complications, the nursing home said, though Aaron suspected it was just exhaustion from existing. And Aaron needed to not be alone in his apartment. He sat at the bar drinking whiskey he couldn't afford when Trey sat down next to him. "You look like you've had a rough week," Trey said. "Rough life," Aaron replied. They talked about Vegas, about working jobs that paid nothing, about watching rich people throw away money while people like them struggled to survive. "You know what the problem is?" Trey said, leaning in. "The system's rigged. We're taught to work hard, play by the rules, and we'll get ahead. But that's bullshit. The only people who get ahead are the ones willing to break the rules. Or the ones born already ahead," Aaron said quietly. "Exactly." Trey bought another round, asked what Aaron did for work. "I'm a valet at the Solaris." Trey's eyes lit up. "No shit. You see some serious money there, huh?" "Every night. You ever think about, you know," Trey made a vague gesture. "Stealing it," Aaron smiled. "Every single day." "I'm serious." "So am I." They looked at each other. "You know where the money is?" Trey asked. "I know where it moves." "You know when it's vulnerable?" Aaron paused. "Yeah, I think I do." Trey grinned. "Buy you another drink and tell me about it?" That conversation changed everything. Over the next month, Aaron and Trey met 6 more times. Not at the same bar. Too obvious. They'd meet at different locations. A coffee shop in Summerlin, a park in Henderson, once at a 24-hour diner off Boulder Highway at 3 a.m. Aaron explained the casino's layout, the executive lot, the service tunnel, the maintenance elevator, the cash transport bay. So you can get into the area where they move money, Trey asked. With my key card, yes. But there are cameras, security patrols, procedures. What kind of procedures? Aaron had been paying attention for years, but now he was paying different attention. Not just to what happened, but to when, how, and why. He learned the cash transport schedule. Monday through Thursday, one armored truck pickup at 10 a.m., one at 4 p.m. Friday through Sunday, 3 pickups, 10 a.m., 6 p.m., and 2 a.m. The overnight pickup was the vulnerable one. By 2 a.m., the casino was quiet. Most high rollers had either won or lost and gone to bed. The poker room was closed. The tables were winding down. The cash transport bay would have maybe 3 security guards and 2 counters processing the night's earnings. How much money are we talking? Trey asked. Friday and Saturday nights? The 2 West AM pickup usually handles between $40 and $80 million. Trey nearly choked on his coffee. Jesus Christ. Most of it's chips that need to be destroyed and cash that needs to be sorted, but probably 40–50% is actual cash ready for transport. So $20–30 million in cash? Minimum. Trey was quiet for a long moment. How do they move it? Metal carts, locked. They roll them from the counting room to the bay, load them onto the armored truck. The truck has 2 guards, the bay has 3 guards, plus the 2 counters who verify the contents before transfer. That's 7 people. 7 people who are mostly bored and underpaid. Trey leaned forward. You think you could get us in there? Into the bay? Maybe, but we'd never get the money out. Too many cameras, too many locks, too many people. Then we don't go in, Trey said. We intercept. Intercept? The truck. What if we became the truck? Aaron frowned. You want to steal an armored truck? No, I want to be the armored truck. Show up at the right time, with the right credentials, and just take the money. Aaron sat back, mind racing. That's insane. Is it? You just said the guards are bored and underpaid. They're not expecting anyone to impersonate an armored truck. They're expecting routine. We give them routine. It would never work. Why not? Aaron opened his mouth to list all the reasons. The security checks, the verification procedures, the cameras. But as he thought about it, he realized something. The security wasn't designed to stop someone impersonating an authorized vehicle. It was designed to stop someone breaking in. If you showed up at the right time, with the right credentials, looking like you belonged. It might work, Aaron said slowly. If we could get the right vehicle, the right transponders, the right access codes. Can you get those? I can get access to the bay, but the armored truck has specific protocols. We'd need someone who knows those protocols. Trey smiled. I think I know a guy. Over the next 6 weeks, Trey assembled a crew, not professionals, not career criminals, just people desperate enough to take a chance. Luis Ortega was 35 years old, Mexican-American, second-generation immigrant whose parents had crossed illegally in the 1970s and built a life through brutal work. Luis had grown up watching his father break his back in construction, his mother clean houses for wealthy families who treated her like furniture. He'd learned early that hard work didn't guarantee success, just exhaustion. Luis worked at an auto shop in North Las Vegas, Garcia's Automotive, owned by his uncle. He was a mechanical genius, could hotwire anything, fabricate parts from scrap metal, bypass security systems with nothing but wire and intuition. He'd learned these skills legitimately, but they had less legitimate applications. Luis had gotten married at 23 to a woman named Sophia. They'd had 2 kids. Life was good, not wealthy, but stable. Then Luis discovered online sports betting. It started small, $5 on a football game, $20 on basketball. It was fun, harmless entertainment. Within 2 years, he was betting thousands. Money he didn't have. Using credit cards, taking payday loans, borrowing from friends. Sophia left him in 2017. took the kids, filed for divorce. Luis didn't blame her. By 2019, Luis owed $60,000 to a sports book connected to people who didn't accept late payments. People who'd already sent someone to his apartment to deliver a message, in the form of a broken rib and a warning. He had 3 months to pay or disappear. When Trey approached him at Garcia's shop one afternoon, "I hear you're good with vehicles." Luis knew this wasn't a normal consultation. "What kind of vehicles?" Luis had asked. "The kind that might need to look like something they're not." Luis should have walked away, but $60,000 in debt in 3 months to live didn't leave many options. "How much does it pay?" "Enough to pay off your debts and never look back." Luis thought about his kids. How Sophia wouldn't let him see them because she was afraid the people he owed money to would hurt them. How his uncle was about to fire him because customers were complaining about the broken-looking guy working on their cars. "I'm in," Luis said. Nina Voss was 29 years old, white, from a small town in Missouri where the biggest employer was a Walmart and dreams went to die. She'd come to Vegas at 21 with her boyfriend at the time, both of them believing the city's promise of opportunity and reinvention. They'd gotten jobs at the Solaris, him as a dealer, her as a cocktail waitress. Within a year, the boyfriend was gone, fired for stealing from the casino, arrested, sent to prison. Nina had been 5 months pregnant when it happened. She'd given birth to a daughter named Emma, raised her alone, worked 6 days a week, 12-hour shifts, carrying drinks to drunk gamblers who'd grab her ass and tip her $5 like they were being generous. "Smile more, sweetheart." "You got a boyfriend? What time do you get off?" Nina smiled through it all. Because she needed the money, daycare cost $200 a month. Her apartment was $950. Formula, diapers, utilities, car payment, food. It added up to more than she made. She'd started stripping on her days off at a club in North Vegas. Made better money, but it was degrading in different ways. Men who thought buying a lap dance meant they owned you for 3 minutes. Emma was 7 now. Nina had missed her school play because she'd picked up an extra shift. Missed her birthday party because the casino was hosting a high roller event and they'd mandated all staff work. Nina looked at her daughter and saw all the things she couldn't provide. Dance lessons, new clothes that weren't from Goodwill, a house with a yard, a future that wasn't just survival. When Trey started coming to the VIP lounge regularly, Nina recognized him for what he was, trouble with a plan. She'd served him drinks for 3 weeks before he finally approached her with something other than flirting. "You ever think about taking something back from these people?" Trey had asked. "Every single day." "What if I told you I had a way?" Nina had looked around the lounge, at the men in $5,000 suits betting $10,000 a hand, at the women dripping in jewelry that cost more than Nina would make in her entire life. "I'd ask what you need from me. Information, access, timing, and silence." "How much?" "Enough to never work another bar shift." Nina thought about Emma, about the life she deserved, about how the system was rigged against people like them, and always would be unless they rigged it back. "I want my cut in advance," Nina said. "Some of it, enough to put in a trust for my daughter. If this goes wrong, if I get caught, I need to know she's taken care of." Trey respected that, promised her $50,000 up front from his own money, the rest after the job. Nina was in. Reese Cooper was the hardest to recruit and the most essential. 47 years old, black, former Army MP who'd served 2 tours in Iraq. He'd seen things that changed him. Not combat exactly, but the moral compromises of occupation. Watching contractors steal, watching officers cover up incidents, learning that the system wasn't about justice. It was about who had power and who didn't. He'd left the Army in 2009 with an honorable discharge and PTSD he refused to acknowledge. Worked various security jobs across Vegas for a decade. The Solaris hired him in 2013. He was good at his job, professional, alert, by the book, but he'd also seen how the system worked from the inside, how management cut corners, how they hired the cheapest contractors, how security protocols existed on paper but were ignored in practice. In 2018, Reese had reported a supervisor for sleeping on duty. The supervisor was friends with the director of security. 2 weeks later, Reese was fired. The official reason, sleeping on duty. The evidence, a grainy surveillance photo showing Reese with his eyes closed at his desk. The reality, Reese had blinked while scratching his eye. The photo was a freeze frame taken out of context. He'd appealed, fought it. Didn't matter. He was blacklisted from casino security work across Vegas. Now he was working mall security at $14 an hour, watching teenagers shoplift from Spencer's Gifts, breaking up fights over parking spaces. He'd spent 23 years in service, military and civilian, protecting people, following rules, believing the system worked, and the system had thrown him away. When Trey found him through online security forums and started asking about casino protocols, Reese was suspicious. Why do you want to know about cash transport procedures? Academic interest, Trey had lied. Reese wasn't stupid. He knew what Trey was planning. When Trey finally proposed it directly, Reese's first instinct was to refuse. He wasn't a criminal, wasn't going to become one. But Trey had done his homework. They fired you for nothing, took your career, your reputation, your livelihood. You spent 6 years protecting their money, and they threw you away like garbage. Don't you want something back? I want my job back, my reputation. That's never going to happen. The casino won, you lost, unless you change the game. Reese had gone home and looked at his bank account. $847 at 47 years old. He'd looked at his resume, blacklisted from the only work he was qualified for. He'd looked at his future, mall security until he was too old to stand. Then what? Social security that wouldn't cover rent? What's my cut? Reese had finally asked. Equal 5-way split after expenses. And if we get caught, then we all go down together. No one rats. We're a crew or we're nothing. Reese had thought about integrity, about honor, about all the things he'd believed in that hadn't saved him when the system decided he was expendable. Okay, Reese said, but we do this smart. No violence. No one gets hurt. We're stealing money, not destroying lives. Agreed. They shook hands. The crew was complete. They met as a group for the first time in late February 2019 at a storage unit Luis had rented under a fake name in Henderson. The unit was small, cramped. Everyone was nervous. They barely knew each other. This was a conspiracy between strangers bound by desperation. Aaron laid out the plan on a whiteboard he'd bought from Walmart. As he explained, the timing, the fake truck, the access codes, he watched their faces. Luis was calculating, already thinking about modifications to the vehicle. Nina was scared but determined, her phone background a photo of her daughter. Reese was skeptical, professional, mentally testing every step for weaknesses. Trey was confident, maybe too confident, already thinking about the money. This is insane, Nina said when Aaron finished. This is brilliant, Luis countered. This is extremely illegal, Reese added. Federal charges, 20-30 years minimum if we're caught. Our lives are over if this goes wrong. Everyone was quiet. Aaron spoke carefully. I've spent 10 years being invisible, watching people who did nothing to earn their money throw it away while I worked 60 hours a week to barely survive. My father died in a nursing home I could barely afford, and nobody cared. Nobody noticed. The system doesn't care about people like us. So why should we care about the system? Because the system has guns and prisons, Nina said quietly. And we have nothing to lose, Aaron replied. That makes us dangerous. Luis nodded slowly. I'm in. Nina looked at the photo of her daughter on her phone, thought about Emma's future, about breaking the cycle of poverty that had defined Nina's entire life. I'm in. Reese studied Aaron, saw something familiar, the same betrayal he'd felt, the same realization that the system was rigged. If we do this, we do it professionally. Military precision, no improvisation. We plan for every contingency. Agreed, Aaron said. They all put their hands in the center. 5 people who shouldn't trust each other, but had no other choice. On 3, Trey said. 1, 2, 3. Crew, they said together. The pact was made. There was no going back. March 2019. 3 weeks before the heist, Luis found a vehicle through a contact who ran a junkyard that specialized in commercial trucks, a retired armored van from a defunct security company. It had been stripped of all official markings, but the structure was identical to active transports. He bought it for $8,000 cash. Over the next 2 weeks, working in his shop after hours, Luis restored the van, painted it dark blue with gray accents. The exact color scheme of Silver Shield Armored Transport, the company the Solaris used. He fabricated magnetic decals with the company logo, installed emergency lights that looked authentic but weren't connected to any dispatch system, even added a fake GPS transponder housing on the roof. From 20 feet away, it was indistinguishable from the real thing. "It's beautiful," Trey said when Luis showed him the finished product. "It's a felony," Luis replied. "But yeah, it's beautiful." Reese handled the access codes. His old security badge had a programmable RFID chip. Luis used equipment from his shop to clone the chip onto new cards for Aaron, Trey, and himself. But the chips needed updated credentials. Security codes changed monthly at the Solaris. That's where Nina came in. She'd befriended a security supervisor named Derek. Mid-40s, divorced, lonely. She'd flirt just enough to keep him interested without ever actually going anywhere with it. Over drinks one night, she'd steered the conversation toward his work. "Don't you get bored working security?" she'd asked. "Mostly, same shit every night. Check credentials, watch monitors, write reports." "How do you even remember all the codes?" Derek had laughed. "I don't. I keep them in my phone." Later that night, while Derek was in the bathroom, Nina had grabbed his phone. Passcode was his birthday, which he'd mentioned earlier, and photographed the note containing current access codes. 2 days later, Luis programmed those codes into the clone badges. They had access. Aaron mapped out the timing. The armored truck usually arrived at 1:55 a.m., parked in the loading zone. 2 guards would exit, check in with casino security, proceed to the cash transport bay, verify the contents of the money carts, and begin loading. The entire process took 20 to 30 minutes. Aaron's plan: arrive at 1:50 a.m. in the fake armored van, park in the loading zone, use the clone badges to access the bay. The guards inside would see legitimate credentials and a legitimate-looking vehicle. They'd load the money into the fake van. Aaron's crew would drive away. By the time the real armored truck arrived at 1:55, the money would be gone. "What if the real truck arrives early?" Nina asked. "Then we abort," Aaron said. "We don't take stupid risks. If anything feels wrong, we walk away." "And what do we do with the money after?" Reese asked. Trey grinned. "That's where I come in." He'd made contact with a fencer in Los Angeles, someone who specialized in moving large amounts of cash through a network of businesses that dealt primarily in currency. Laundromats, check cashing stores, casinos in tribal jurisdictions that didn't report to federal authorities. The fencer would take 30% but would move all $76 million within 3 months. 70% of $76 million is still over $50 million, Trey said. "Split 5 ways, that's $10 million each." $10 million. Aaron tried to imagine it, tried to picture having that kind of money. He couldn't. The number was too big, too abstract. But he knew what it meant. Never working another valet shift, never worrying about rent, never watching people throw away in an hour what he made in a year. "When do we do it?" Luis asked. Aaron checked his notes. "Friday, March 15th, 1:50 a.m. "That's in 11 days, Nina said. "I know." "Are we ready?" Aaron looked at each of them. A mechanic, a bartender, a disgraced security guard, a hustler, a valet. Not criminals, just desperate people with nothing left to lose. "We're ready," Aaron said. Friday, March 15th, 2019, 1:43 a.m. Aaron sat in the passenger seat of the fake armored van, wearing a dark blue uniform they'd ordered online that matched Silver Shield's colors. Luis was driving. Reese was in the back. They'd parked 3 blocks from the Solaris, waiting. Nina had texted 20 minutes ago. "Friday night count running slow. Truck arrival delayed to 2:10 a.m. "You have extra time." Aaron's heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. "You good?" Luis asked. "No," Aaron said honestly. "You?" "Terrified, but let's do it anyway." At 1:48 a.m., Luis started the van and pulled out onto Las Vegas Boulevard. The strip was still busy. Tourists, cabs, lights everywhere. But as they turned onto the side street behind the Solaris, the activity faded. They pulled into the loading zone at exactly 1:52 a.m. Aaron took a deep breath, checked his badge, checked his watch. Let's go. They exited the van. Aaron walked to the security door, scanned his badge. Green light. Click. The door opened. They walked through the corridor like they belonged there. Luis pushed a hand truck they'd brought. Reese carried a clipboard. They looked official, bored, routine. They reached the cash transport bay at 1:56 a.m. 2 guards were inside. One was sitting at a desk filling out paperwork. The other was standing by the money carts. 4 large metal containers, locked, each containing millions in cash and chips. Aaron scanned his badge at the bay entrance. The guard at the desk looked up. "You're early. Dispatch sent us ahead of schedule," Aaron said calmly. "Big pickup in Henderson after this. They want us moving." The guard shrugged. "Fine by me. Let me verify." He checked his computer, cross-referenced the schedule, looked at Aaron's badge number. Everything matched. Because Nina had given them real codes. Because Luis had programmed them perfectly. "All right, you're cleared. Let's load up." It was that easy. The guards helped them roll the 4 carts to the van, helped them load them into the back, made small talk about the weather, about traffic, about nothing. By 2:04 a.m., all 4 carts were loaded. "Sign here," the guard said, handing Aaron a transfer manifest. Aaron signed it with a fake name they'd practiced. His hand didn't shake. "Have a good night," the guard said. "You too," Aaron replied. They got back in the van. Luis started the engine. They pulled out of the loading zone and drove away with $76 million. They didn't speak for the first 5 minutes, just drove. Followed surface streets, avoiding the highway, heading east toward Henderson. Finally, Reese laughed. "Holy shit, we actually did it." "Not yet," Aaron said. "We're not safe until we're out of this van and the money's hidden." They drove to a storage facility Luis had rented under a fake name. Unit 247, climate controlled. No cameras on this section because the facility was old and poorly maintained. They unloaded the carts, broke the locks with bolt cutters, and stared at the contents. Cash. Bundles and bundles of cash. Mostly hundreds and fifties. Luis started counting. After 30 minutes, he looked up. 76 million, give or take. They'd done it. They'd actually done it. The plan was simple. Lie low for 6 months. Don't spend anything. Don't change their lifestyles. Act normal. Trey would handle moving the money through his fencer contacts slowly, carefully, but greed moves faster than caution. 3 days after the heist, Trey drove to Los Angeles with $2 million in cash. He was supposed to be establishing the laundering pipeline. Instead, he went to a nightclub in West Hollywood, bought bottles for strangers, tipped a waitress $5,000, posted photos on Instagram showing stacks of money. "Look at this fucking idiot," Nina said when she saw the posts. By day 5, Luis bought a brand new BMW M5, $105,000, and registered it under his real name. "What are you doing?" Aaron demanded when he found out. "Living my life," Luis said. "We earned this money. We stole this money. If you start spending it, they'll find us." "You're paranoid." "I'm careful. There's a difference." But it was too late. The Solaris had reported the theft to the FBI immediately. Special Agent Victoria Hayes, Financial Crimes Division, took the lead. Her team reviewed every second of security footage from the night of March 15th. They saw the fake armored van arrive, saw 3 men in uniforms load the money, saw the van drive away. When they cross-referenced the van's physical description with commercial vehicle registrations, they found something odd. The license plate bracket didn't match Silver Shield's standard equipment. It was aftermarket. Slightly different mounting pattern. They checked with Silver Shield. The company confirmed no trucks were dispatched to the Solaris at 1:52 a.m. that night. It had been a fake. Agent Hayes pulled the access logs from the security door. Badge number 4782 had been used. That badge belonged to Aaron Cole, valet attendant, but Aaron's badge had supposedly been used at 1:52 a.m., while Aaron was scheduled to be working the front entrance. They checked footage from the front entrance. Aaron wasn't there. He'd clocked in at 6:04 p.m., but disappeared from camera coverage after 1:30 a.m. Agent Hayes had her suspect. 1 week after the heist, the FBI raided the storage facility, They found the fake armored van, the empty money carts and bolt cutters with Luis's fingerprints. They found $12 million in cash. The portion Trey hadn't moved yet. The rest was gone. Aaron was arrested at his apartment on March 23rd at 6:00 a.m. He was sitting on his couch, reading a book, wearing his valet jacket. "Why are you still wearing the jacket?" Agent Hayes asked him. "It's comfortable," Aaron replied calmly. "Where's the money, Aaron?" "What money?" "The $76 million you stole from the Solaris Grand Casino." "I don't know what you're talking about." They searched his apartment, found nothing, no cash, no evidence, just a quiet studio apartment with secondhand furniture and an empty refrigerator. Trey was arrested in Los Angeles 2 days later, drunk at the same nightclub, carrying $40,000 in cash. Luis was arrested at his auto shop, tried to run, didn't make it 10 feet before agents tackled him. Nina disappeared, left her apartment, left her daughter with her mother, vanished. Last confirmed sighting was at the Mexican border. She's never been found. Reese vanished too. His badge was found in a storage locker in Arizona, but there's no trace of him after March 20th. Some think he's dead. Some think he's in Mexico. Nobody knows. Aaron Cole, Trey Malone, and Luis Ortega were charged with theft of interstate commerce, wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy to commit robbery federal crimes. Combined potential sentence, 40-60 years. Luis took a plea deal first, testified against Aaron and Trey in exchange for a reduced sentence. Got 15 years. Trey maintained his innocence, claimed he was just an investor in Luis's auto shop. The jury didn't believe him. 30 years. Aaron went to trial. His defense was simple, circumstantial evidence. Yes, his badge was used, but someone could have stolen it. Yes, he wasn't on camera, but the camera system had blind spots. Yes, he knew the layout, but so did hundreds of employees. The prosecution showed the jury footage of the heist, the access logs, testimony from Luis about Aaron's planning. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, guilty on all counts. At sentencing, the judge asked Aaron if he had anything to say. Aaron stood, looked at the judge, spoke clearly. "I spent 10 years watching people hand me keys to cars that cost more than my life. I watched them walk into that casino and lose more in an hour than I'd earn in a year. And every night I had to smile and say, 'Thank you for your generosity,' when they tipped me $10 for parking a $250,000 car. The system is broken. It rewards luck and punishes work. I don't regret what I did. I regret getting caught." The judge was not moved. 25 years in federal prison. The FBI recovered $12 million from the storage unit. They traced another $8 million through Trey's laundering network. They seized the BMW Luis bought, but $56 million was never found. Agent Hayes believes Aaron had a contingency plan, that he moved the majority of the money before the heist, before anyone in his crew even knew about it. Aaron was smarter than everyone gave him credit for, Hayes said in an interview. He played the long game. He wasn't greedy. He disappeared the money before his crew could screw it up. Some investigators think the money is in offshore accounts under fake identities. Others think it's buried in the Nevada desert, waiting for Aaron to be released in 2044. And some think it never existed, that the Solaris inflated the theft amount for insurance purposes. Aaron Cole is currently serving his sentence at FCI Victorville in California. He's been a model prisoner, works in the library, reads constantly, never talks about the heist. I sent him a letter requesting an interview for this documentary. He declined, but he did write back. "Everyone thinks I'm a criminal, but I just wanted to stop being invisible. For one night, I wanted to matter, and for one perfect night, I did. That's worth 25 years.